When I graduated college, I graduated as an electrical engineer and never found myself programming. Now, however, in industry, I program almost every day. And if I were to go back and restart programming, there's a bunch of tips that I'd want to give my past self in order to kind of get myself to the way where I am today. In lieu of that, I want this video to be used as a collection of the programming tips and tricks that I've learned throughout my journey. All of these tips and tricks I've picked up throughout the years have not only made me a better programmer, but made the entire experience more fun. And let's be honest, work is always better when you're having fun. With that being said, let's get started. To start off, the biggest thing I've learned is that there's no secret or one-size-fits-all with learning how to code. You are legitimately learning a new language, and it's a process that takes years to master and learn. I'm not a prodigy by any means of the word like other YouTubers that you might have seen. I'm just an average guy that puts a decent amount of time in learning how to code better and more efficiently. One of the biggest things that I've learned in industry is to have no shame in asking for help. I have no problem asking any senior developer on my team a question if I don't know the answer. In fact, when I ask them questions, it often reinforces their learning, as well as teaches me a new set of skills, so it's assisting both parties. Looking at these senior engineers over time and studying their ways made me realize that they're just like you and I, with one main difference. They've been doing it longer and have wrote more lines of code. More lines of code means more repetitions and ultimately more practice. So this leads to tip number 1, quantity over quality. Whenever you're getting started with any habit or skill in life, you want to get started doing as little as you can, as much as you can. In terms of programming, try to automate small tasks first, rather than moving on to giant projects. The more small projects that you're able to handle, the quicker the skills that you'll pick up along the way. You'll learn how to debug small little problems faster, and that will translate better to large projects, in my opinion. The second tip that I would tell myself is to start to specialize in one language. When I started learning how to program after university, I was so amazed by the wide variety of programming languages that there were out there. My one friend would tell me that they were doing a project in C++. I would get wide, bright eyes and be, ooh, I want to go learn how to program in C++. The next week, my one friend would tell me they're doing a really cool data science project on Kaggle and using this really cool new Python library. So then I would start to absorb Python and want to go off and learn that library. All of these different languages ultimately led to paralysis through the wide variety of options that there were out there, and I was learning only small amounts of skills on each language that was not translating together. This endless cycle caused me to be up in the air for so long without an in-depth knowledge of a single programming language. It wasn't until I sat down and decided to take one language seriously that led me to learning the most. Once you learn the intricacies of one language, you'll start to see parallels of programming between all of the languages, which will make the translation faster if you need to use a certain language for a specific task. If you need to start processing and looking at data, take a look at Python and the pandas libraries that they have out there for data processing. If you're looking to write iOS applications, take a look at Swift or C# for writing apps. If you need to write machine code, take a look at C for writing certain types of machine code. Figure out what application you need to be doing and specialize on that language first. Now I know this third one may sound like a silly one, but the third point that I would tell back to myself is don't be afraid to Google things. When I was in college, I was afraid to Google things. I thought using Google was kind of shown as a sign of weakness and would tell me that I'm not a good programmer. I don't know if this was instilled in me from not being able to look things up while using interviews or whatnot, but I was very self-conscious of going off and using other people's information to try to make my code better on the internet. Really stupid nowadays when I take a look back and think about it, because just taking a look and finding information is obviously the best way to go off and learn something. Combined with the pointer that I'm going to share next, Google can often be your best friend in solving a problem. The biggest thing is figuring out the question that you're trying to answer. If you don't know how to solve a specific problem, Google will be a wide variety of information to solve that specific problem if you know the key question. You can easily just Google the key question and look at all the different coding databases that are there to answer that specific question. If you're concerned about a specific syntax, Google what is the syntax of Python for this specific method. You'll pull up the dictionary and get all the different types of topics. If you have an idea of what algorithm do I need to go use this, there's a wide variety of code bases talking about different algorithms that are out there. Learn how to effectively use Stack Overflow and some of the other tools such as W3 tools to give you different answers for different coding questions that you need to go. And if Google doesn't know the answer and I'm often working on a team, I just ask. Look to the person who you think knows the code best or has the most variety of knowledge on the topic and learn from them. Don't be afraid to incorporate learnings you find elsewhere into your programs. So tip number 4 that I'd give to my past self is start to think like a coder. What does that mean? Well, effectively, coding is just a tool to use for efficient problem solving. One of the biggest skills that I think education teaches someone is how to learn and how to efficiently solve a problem. What good programmers know how to do is identify the key question and what they're trying to solve, and use their toolbox of coding knowledge in order to solve that problem. Forrest Knight, in a past video that actually helped inspire this video, I think said this in my favorite way. Think of programming as critical thinking, deconstructing a problem in order to find a solution using code. The best way to solve a problem is to find the underlying reason of why something is happening or what you're ultimately trying to solve. And keep asking yourself, well, why does this occur? If A causes B, you might have an option there, but ultimately what caused A? That might open up another wide variety of questions. When you keep asking yourself why something happens, you'll start to get to the key reason or the problem that you're trying to identify. Once that's identified, attack the real purpose of what you're trying to solve. And if you genuinely have no idea, take the point from point number 3. Go Google it. And the final point that I can probably give to not only my past self, but anybody watching this video, is don't succumb to imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a topic I think we should always talk about. When I was in college, I was a garbage programmer. I often found myself struggling through programming classes, winding up with B's and C's in them. I wanted nothing to do with programming because I struggled so hard through it. I would take a look at the classmates next to me and problems that would take them 10 minutes to solve, I would wind up finding myself taking hours to solve the exact same type of issue. Truth is, humans only tend to focus on what's happening with yourself. The person who was able to solve that one problem in 10 minutes might think they're an absolutely garbage programmer too, because they saw you solve one problem quickly that they struggled through for hours. Everybody's good at a different skill. If they can solve data structures problems faster than you can, they've probably just written more data structures code than you can. You might find yourself writing more algorithms code than them, making you a stronger algorithms program. The one thing that you can kind of take away from this though, is no matter how many people you think are better programmers than you, just keep going. After years in university not wanting to program, as soon as I graduated and got a job with an industry, I found myself programming every single day. Come to think about it now, I've built an entire cloud architecture for the current project that I'm working on. Back 4 or 5 years ago when I was taking these programming classes, I never thought that would be possible. Just keep going and don't doubt yourself. Now I have one thing to ask you. Stop watching this video and go write that program that you've been wanting to make. Thank you guys for watching.